Unfortunately, the Republicans have put politics over our border security. They want chaos in order to win an election rather than to solve the problems. You don't have to take my word for it. Let's quote Donald Trump.
Why were you against the House, against the Senate border deal, the bipartisan border?
Well, they allow 5,000 people a week, but a lot of people took it as 5,000 people a day. They said 5,000 people a week, and you read it, and it says 5,000 people a day. Number one, that, but it also made it much better for the opposing side.
It regularized, managed the crisis.
You couldn't manage it. It was so complex.
Senator Lankford himself said that a top Republican told me that if I try to move a bill that solves the border crisis during this election year, he will do whatever he can to destroy me. He said, I do not want you to solve this during the presidential election. There was a policy bill. There was a policy change that would have significantly addressed the problems at the border. And instead, you all on the other side of the aisle sabotaged it, where you baselessly impeached the secretary who's trying to solve our problems at the southern border because you want to win it. You want to win in November.
Gentleman's time has expired.
You don't want to solve the problem.
The chair now recognizes Mr. Goldman from the state of New York for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Mayorkas, thank you for being here once again to endure the completely uncalled for, unwarranted personal attacks from my Republican colleagues. I want to get into some of what they have been saying because it's truly shocking that we are where we are. On the one hand, my colleague from Florida says that all Democrats want to do is throw money at the problem. Mr. Pfluger just said this is a policy issue, it's not a money issue. Okay. Is the Senate bipartisan bill that you worked on, along with the second most conservative Republican senator in the Senate, an independent and a Democrat, that was endorsed by Senate Republican leadership, a policy bill or an appropriations bill?
It is both, Congressman, it is both an appropriation bill and an immigration reform bill, and fixing what everyone agrees is a broken system. It would provide us with new legal authorities that are much needed and would really advance the security of the border.
And one of those critical revisions is in the asylum process. I know this is not under your purview, but do you have any sense of how many asylum applicants ultimately are granted asylum in this country?
Congressman, it of course depends on the demographics, but as a general rule, I believe it is approximately 20–25% ultimately receive asylum, but I would want to verify that statistic, and I probably shouldn't share it given my uncertainty.
Understood, there are different numbers, but it takes at least 5 years and perhaps as many as 10 years for a case to be completely adjudicated. Is that right?
It takes many years until the case is finally adjudicated.
So let's just say, hypothetically, that we had an asylum processing system that could process any applications within 90 days, 6 months. Am I correct that that means that 75 to 80% of the people who apply for asylum would not get asylum and would be returned to their own country?
That would enable us to remove people far more quickly. You are correct, and that would make a sea change of a difference in our ability to enforce the southern border of the United States.
And is it your view that if that were the case, that there would not be an incentive for anyone who knows that he or she may not qualify for asylum to come to this country knowing that that person would be able to make an application to get a work authorization and stay here for at least 5 years to work? Is that correct?
That is, Congressman.
And that, of course, creates a tremendous incentive for people to come across the border. The problem is not our credible fear standard. The problem is not the policy of asylum. The problem is that we don't have the resources to process asylum applications as expeditiously as is necessary. So no one over here is talking about throwing money at the problem. We're talking about solving the problem. And in the Senate, they tried to solve the problem. They tried not just with appropriations, but with a policy bill. Unfortunately, the Republicans have put politics over our border security. They want chaos in order to win an election rather than to solve the problems. There was a policy bill, there was a policy change that would have significantly addressed the problems at the border, and instead, you all on the other side of the aisle sabotaged it, where you baselessly impeached the secretary who's trying to solve our problems at the southern border because you want to win it. You want to win in November.
Gentleman's time has
You
expired.
don't want to solve the problem.
The gentleman's time has expired. I now recognize Mr. Garbarino, the gentleman from New York, for the chairman of the Subcommittee on Cybersecurity, for 5 minutes of questioning.